Hey, moneymakers, welcome back to another episode of Taking Stock Live. I'm your host, Kalila Reynolds, bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. And guess what? This is a very special episode for us because today, Taking Stock turns 5 years old. Is it today? Today's the 29th, so it's actually yesterday. October 28th, 2019 is the day that we launched our first episode of Taking Stock right here on YouTube. And here we are 5 years later, 243 episodes later, bringing you another episode of all the business goodness that you come to know, love, and rely upon. Ooh, I got some stories to tell. Tonight, we're going to take a flashback, a look back at the past 5 years. I'm going to give you some of my reflections, and I want you to tell me in the chat, what is your favorite memory of taking stock? What was your favorite interview? What was your favorite moment? Let me know from the past 5 years. And also, as usual, let me know in the chat which part of Jamaica or which part of the world you are joining us from. Now, here's a look at what's coming up in tonight's show, followed by what's hot in business. Now, come on, let's get this money. On this episode of Taking Stock, it's our birthday! Taking Stock is officially 5 years old. Join us for a special episode as we go down memory lane of some of our most iconic moments.
Here's What's Hot, brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Jamaica's Agriculture Ministry says predial larceny costs the sector $14 billion annually. That's over 88 million US dollars. Predial larceny is the theft of agricultural produce. Agriculture Minister Floyd Green said the government is moving to double the size of the predial larceny unit. The ministry also plans to hire 300 agricultural wardens to help combat the theft. JetBlue and Spirit Airlines have suspended flights to Haiti indefinitely. Both U.S.-based airlines canceled flights between Fort Lauderdale in Florida and Port-au-Prince. JetBlue still has its direct flight from New York City. Neither airline has publicly stated why the flights were suspended, but recently Haiti has seen a spike in gang violence. According to a UN report released last week, more than 10,000 people have been displaced due to attacks in the past 2 weeks around the Port-au-Prince metropolitan area. The New York Stock Exchange wants to extend trading on its online platform ARCA to 22 hours a day during the week. Currently, NYSE ARCA has a pre-opening session from 4 to 9:30 a.m. with core trading hours from 9:30 to 4 p.m. There's also a late trading session from 4 to 8 p.m. The extended hours would see trading start at 1:30 a.m. until 11:30 p.m. The NYSE board said the adjusted hours would better accommodate international investors who are interested in trading on the NYSE. Several German companies have indicated that they plan to implement a 4-day work week, but government officials disagree. Germany recently concluded a 6-month trial of a 4-day work week with 45 participating companies. 73% of organizations said they planned to keep the schedule. However, Germany is in an economic slowdown, and the country's finance minister is calling for longer, not shorter, work weeks.
What's Hot, brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Now, the next thing that you need to know that the banks probably aren't telling you is that you can negotiate pretty much everything about your loan. Now, usually when you go in for a loan, most people just accept what the bank tells them. They say, okay, we're offering you this loan and it is 8% interest for 5 years and you are going to repay $250 every month and sign here. And you, like a fool, you just sign, right? Because that's what the bank says that you should do, and you want the loan, so you just sign. That is not the right way to do it, especially if you know your credit. because banks want your business, especially if you are a good borrower and you have a good credit history. Banks are going to fight for your business. And so that means that you are in a strong position to negotiate every single aspect of that loan. Welcome back. As you can see, we're rocking the new merch, testing out the new merch line for the Christmas drop this year. I really like the sweater version of this shirt. This is a t-shirt. We have a sweater version, and I'll post the link in the comments. If you're joining us from abroad, you probably are seeing the link somewhere on your page there because it's on Teespring. But for those of you locally who want some Money Media merch, some let's get this money merch, I'll post the link later on in the comments for you guys and in the description as well, because this is basically the pre-launch. It hasn't even officially launched yet. This is the sample. I wanted to see what it was gonna look like. Well, let me see who is joining us, who's in the comments this evening. I see a lot of birthday greetings coming in. So let's see who we have here. Kish said he was waiting, joining well before 8 o'clock, 7:52, first one to log in and comment. We have Nana Sense bringing greetings from far, far away, as usual. Kish saying, happy 5th birthday, Taking Stock. You have changed lives, including mine. Thank you, Kalila, for such an impactful show. Thank you so much, Kish. You are one of our day one OGs, consistent viewers, always commenting, always giving us your support, and it is much appreciated. Carrie Simmons also says, happy birthday. Birthday greetings coming from Malik Barnett. Also from Philip Burgess, another day one OG. Garvin saying happy birthday, team Taking Stock. David Gray wishing us happy birthday as well, saying let's get this money, and sending us a lot of emojis. Thank you so much, David. Odale says happy birthday. We share the same birthday. Well, happy birthday to you as well, Odale. Hope you had a wonderful day today. Odale says Scorpions are the best. Scorpios, I guess, are the best. Go Scorpio. Kish says the interview with Mr. Lee Chin is and has always been one of his favorite interviews. That one is definitely up there. Strong Link says absolutely right. Glamour Wayne says happy birthday. Checking in from Portland. Sean says good night to the money makers. Jamar wanting to get a member of JNSHC. What's JNSHC, Jamar? To come on the show so we can talk to them about implementing digital payment solutions. Today was chaotic with the tourists having to reverse out the toll booth. Oh, okay, issues going on out there. So we got Kingston in the house. We got Christopher saying happy birthday, love the impact of the show, changing lives, and saying let's get this money. So tonight we are going to play for you some of our favorite clips over the past 5 years. We sure have come quite a long way. I remember when I started the show back in 2019. And first of all, we started before Taking Stock with Money Mondays. Who remembers Money Mondays, JA? That was a short feature on like Instagram every Monday talking about money. And very quickly, I realized that there was a demand for more information. A lot was happening on the stock market at the time. 2019 was a pretty good year for the Jamaica Stock Exchange, coming off the heels of 2018, when Jamaica was the top performing stock market in the entire world. So there was a lot of pent-up interest in the Jamaica Stock Exchange. That need was not being filled by the existing shows, the existing content, the existing news. And so I said, you know what we need to do? We need a show that is going to focus on Jamaican stock market news. I want to have analysts from all the major investment firms on the show to give us their unbiased opinions about what is happening in the market. Why is a stock up? Why is a stock down? And not just the analysts who are trying to, or the firms who are trying to sell us a particular IPO or a particular offer, but I want their competitors
to be a part of it as well, so that we get different viewpoints. And I also want to have independent analysts on to be able to tell us what is going on. I want to be able to interview the leaders of these Jamaican businesses, particularly the listed companies, to hold them accountable for what is going on in their companies and to learn more about the strategic positions that they are taking. And thus the idea for Taking Stock was born. Wasn't able to get it on television, which was the original idea, but we came straight to YouTube, which at the time was revolutionary for Jamaica. I'll put that out there. I'll say that. We had not had a major show of this kind come straight to YouTube in Jamaica. And as a matter of fact, everybody I consulted with said that this would never work, that advertisers would never go for it, sponsors would not sponsor a YouTube show. And when Taking Stock premiered on October 28, 2019, we premiered with 4 corporate sponsors. And I thought that was an amazing achievement. We had JMMB, who's been there from day one and has stuck with us for the past 5 years. They are still with us. We had Bulwark Insurance Agents, now Agency, and they were with us for about 4 years. We had NCB and we had Sagicor. So we launched with 4 major sponsors, major corporate sponsors, which was unheard of at the time. So this show has indeed been revolutionary. And it is my honor to say that we have been here for the past 5 years. I want to know what your favorite moment has been in Taking Stock history. Let us know in the comments. What do you remember? What has been your biggest takeaway? What has been the biggest impact of the show since 2019? Tonight, we're going to look back at some of the clips. Let me see what the first one is. I know what my biggest show was, the biggest impact. I talk about it all the time when we, discuss, when I give speeches about, how the show came about, the history of it and all of that. But I will tell you a little bit later on what that was. So, like I said, we're looking back at some of our best episodes. And of course, we had to start with our very first episode. Here's a look back at episode 1, Taking Stock.
Welcome back to Taking Stock. Now, QWI Investments' initial public offer opens on Monday, September 16, and it's already causing a lot of excitement on the market, triggering the JSC's circuit breaker twice in one day for parent company Jamaican Teas. So here's a quick look at the offer. They're selling 600 million ordinary shares, seeking to raise $787 million. Only 270 million shares are open to the public at a share price of $1.35 each. But if you're an existing shareholder of Jamaican Teas, you can apply in the reserved pool and get a discount at $1.25 each. And if demand is high enough, they could add another 300 million shares. The minimum investment, 10,000 shares, so you can get in on this for as little as $13,500 plus minimal fees. And the lead broker is NCB Capital Markets. Joining me now is the face of QWI. His financial blog, IC Insider, is the go-to for those who want to be in the know. He sits on many public and private boards. By trade, he's a chartered accountant. We also know him as an entrepreneur. Welcome, John Jackson.
Thanks to be here.
Good to have you. So tell us all about QWI. You're the new kid on the block in terms of investment firms. What do you do? What's your strategy?
Well, the strategy is to invest funds in stocks and shares primarily. That's the primary objective at this stage, to maximize the returns on investment. And so far we've done, I think, pretty well. We've done just over 50% after expenses since the end of March.
Just over 50% what?
Return on
investment.
The gain since March is 50%. So if we had invested $100,000, it's $150.
Since March, and that's only a few months ago.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. So what makes you different than any other investment firm out there?
Well, I think we're the only firm that will actively manage the investment in terms of equities to try and maximize the returns on it, return on investment. So there are some that are passive, some that are, because of the size of the portfolio, blocks in the portfolio, don't have the same flexibility that we may have. And we just look for opportunities where we see them, and we're constantly looking for opportunities. And we will get rid of stocks if we believe the stocks have actually reached a level that's not going to deliver the type of return we think is acceptable in the short to medium term.
And how often do you make those types of decisions?
We look at the market on a daily basis, 7 days a week. So we're constantly looking at opportunities while trading is taking place, when company results are released. And on weekends, we spend time looking at, look at which stocks are better value than others, and where we may see opportunities that may not have existed. We probably didn't identify before.
By the way, who's we? Because a lot will depend on whether people trust you and your team to make these decisions and deliver the returns you believe you can deliver. So who's your investment team?
The team comprises myself. I'm the chairman of the investment committee. The director is David Stevens. He's another person. He's personally involved in investments, in the market, and he's a businessman. His own right. Cameron Burnett, who is a chartered accountant like myself. He sits on the investment committee. John Mafood, although he's not a member officially of the investment committee, John goes back years, and he worked for security brokers, etc. So, and he's an investor in his own right. Cal Carb is an investor in his own right with significant amount of investment. And Malcolm McDonald, who is a director, also has knowledge of the investment market. So, but clearly, when you look at the portfolio, the performance of the stocks we've had before QE took it over, you see a level of consistency by and large that's there. So one don't have to look at the 50.5% just now, but look at the fact that we have delivered. We have also, most of us, a number of us, have been directors of Jamaican Teas. And when I joined Jamaica Teas as a director, the shares went to the market at $2.95. We have had 2 splits so far, and we are now, well, today's closing price is something like $7. It went up to $8 something.
So that was our interview with John Jackson from QWI. That IPO had just dropped, or was just about to drop. And I remember that day so well, being our pilot episode for Taking Stock. And, the amount of you who tuned in and watched the show and supported us. We even had a launch party at Janga's, and you guys showed up. That was pretty amazing. Fun fact, I was about 5 months pregnant in that clip. October, November, December, January, February. Yeah, about 5 months pregnant in that clip. So my favorite memory of Taking Stock is actually, we don't have the clip, but I will describe it to you. And those of you who've been with us from day one, back when we were recording in person, that was at PBCJ, and then later on we moved to iCreate. My favorite clip was actually from February 2020. And that was the episode that we interviewed Nigel Clarke about the Trans-Jamaican Highway IPO. And one of the reasons that was I don't even know if favorite is the right word, but it's a standout episode to me for several reasons. One, I did that interview on Friday because at the time we were pre-recording the show, and the show would come out on a Monday. We record on Friday, edit over the weekend, and we publish on YouTube on Mondays. So I did that interview with Nigel Clarke on Friday, February 7. My son Ryan was born on Sunday, February 9, 2 days later. And then the following day, February 10, the show came out on schedule as planned. And we were able to get that out despite me literally giving birth over the weekend. And I remember looking at my big 9 months belly and telling Ryan, just stay in a couple more days. Let me do this interview, and then you can make your arrival. And my son is a good boy, and so he listened. But the reason that interview was so important as well was TJH. To this day, it is still one of the top business news stories, one of the top stocks to follow. But at the time, it was such a huge deal because the government was selling this national asset to the public via an IPO. They had done it before with Wigton, but TJH was just on another level, on a whole nother scale. And the interest from the Jamaican public was overwhelming in this particular IPO. And it's something that I felt I had an obligation to cover for the people of Jamaica and for those who are interested in this particular opportunity. So that's the second reason that it stood out. One, because I did it 9 months pregnant and gave birth 2 days later. Two, because of the impact and the scale of TJH. And then three, because we all know what happened just a few days later. The COVID-19 pandemic hit, and then everything changed. And all of these people who had just invested in their very first IPO, their very first stock, TJH, Trans-Jamaican Highway, had lost a lot of money because they saw the value of their stock plummet over the course of just a few days. We saw the Jamaica Stock Exchange lose 30% of its value in just a few days, which caused a lot of people to panic. In addition to that, you had a lot of people who lost their jobs. So they just lost all this money on the stock market, whether realized or unrealized. And then they lost their jobs. And now they don't know what on earth they should be doing with their lives. And so it was a very tumultuous time. And that is the interview that sticks out in my mind from the past 5 years for those reasons that I stated before. And I still want to know from you guys, what interview do you feel has had the most impact, or what has been the most memorable? So that was one. I think probably 3 interviews, but that was to me the most impactful. So let's take a look at another clip. This one, well, just roll the clip.
Explain what happened on Friday, re-dividends.
So recall that one of our main objectives, apart from inflation targeting, is financial stability. We need to keep the system stable. And one aspect of that is liquidity in the system. Now, as you know, along with many other central banks in Europe, United States, elsewhere, Far East, we've been putting quite a bit of liquidity in the system. Indeed, we have put nearly 60 billion of liquidity in the system.
And that just means cash, that just means money.
Yes, it means cash. In other words, we have bought securities from the financial institutions. And what this has done is put them in a pretty strong place in terms of liquidity. So I need to state right from the beginning, there is no problem with the current liquidity situation of the financial institutions. But we don't know how long this lockdown will last. We don't know how deep it will be. We don't know how slow the recovery will be. So as a matter of prudence, we took a decision to ask the deposit-taking institutions, banks, as well as building societies, financial holding companies, to postpone the outflow of liquidity by way of dividend. So under the Banking Act, if we have cause, we can say, no, don't pay dividend. But because there is no cause in this instance, we had to ask. And I must say, every one of the financial institutions was very accommodating in that respect. One or two of them, it was a little bit more complicated because they had either already declared a dividend or had given notice that they were going to declare a dividend. So there was a little complexity there. But even in those instances, those institutions came out in support, and I really appreciate that. It's similar to how they decided not to, when they gave back the asset tax, they have stepped forward again and said, we want to work with the central bank to maintain stability.
If you already have a check in the mail and you just haven't cashed it yet or deposited it yet, does that mean it won't be honored?
No, that's okay. That means that the dividend would have been paid out already. So this is for listed enterprises, financial holding companies who have not yet actually drawn a check and sent it out.
Okay, explain who all this affects, because there's been some confusion out there. People have been afraid that it affected all listed companies, but it's only financial institutions. Tell me which ones it applies to.
Well, I hope I don't miss any of them, but all of the listed financial institutions. So BNS, NCB, Sagicor, JMMB, Victoria Mutual.
Okay, so we have all banks, insurance companies too, yes?
Well, any financial holding company. So Sagicor.
What a financial holding company is.
Right. So Sagicor Financial, Sagicor Group, and NCB Group, they would have banks in them, security dealers, insurance companies. So it's a listed enterprise that we call the financial holding company.
Mm-hmm. What about brokerage firms?
No, it doesn't apply to any brokerage firm.
Remittance companies?
No, so long as those are within the holding company, they can always dividend within the company, but we don't want them to dividend outside of it. So let us say, for example, Western Union as a part of Grace Remittance, they can move dividends within the organization, but we're asking them not to move those dividends out of the financial holding company. Mm-hmm. This is just a postponement. As we go along and as we hopefully see a little light at the end of the tunnel in the near future, we will relax that request.
You said postponement, but speak to how long this is expected to last, because the press release said for the rest of the 2020 financial year, which would be until March 2021.
Well, Kalila, I don't know how long this situation that we have with coronavirus will last. I don't know how deep it will be. There's been some talk recently internationally about what that recovery will look like. And more, I'm convinced that that recovery will be elongated. It won't be V-shaped. And so we have to just be prudent and make sure that we don't do anything early on that puts us in a compromising position later on. So we'll take it week by week and see what the situation is like.
Wow, so that interview with Richard Biles was, again, on a Friday. And the funny thing about that interview, we had already shot the show, because this was back in the time when we were pre-recording the show and then releasing it on a Monday. We had already done all of our interviews for the following week's show. And then the BOJ dropped this news that they were suspending dividends. This was early days, or probably middle of COVID. I don't remember what month, maybe sometime around the summer. The BOJ dropped this news that they were suspending dividends, and I had already shot my show for Monday. And I was like, here what, dash for the whole show. We need to reshoot, because there's going to be a lot of uncertainty about what this policy means for investors, especially all of our new investors. And Richard Biles graciously agreed to come on the show at the last minute, and we redid the entire show from my living room. Because remember, after COVID, we had started out shooting in-person episodes. When COVID hit, we now had to figure out this new platform called Zoom that was so new to everybody. I ordered a webcam online, and I remember the webcam costing like 5 times what it would normally cost. It was like, I paid like $300 and something for a simple Logitech webcam that typically goes for like $70, $60. And the prices were insane at the time, because they were just selling out like that. It's hot commodity. So I paid, $300 and something for this Logitech webcam, figured out how to use Zoom, and we switched to that platform, recording from my living room. So very interesting times. That was the interview with Richard Biles following that historic announcement that dividends would be suspended indefinitely because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let me take a few more of your comments before we head on over to the next clip. Natoya says, I remember oh too well. TJH was my first stock because it was promoted so well. I watched that interview as well. Your shows pushed me to stay on my investment journey. Forever grateful. Malik says, mine was the dollar IPO because it was my first IPO that I invested in. And B. Lee says, happy birthday. It is a milestone to celebrate. Roswell said, 2021 was the time I should have kept CPJ when trading low at 250. I missed out. And remember, I think it was the following year, CPJ was the #1 performing stock on the JSC. Orville said, should I name Ryan taking stock? You got jokes, Orville. Sean says, I honestly can't believe the show didn't make it on TV. The show taught me a lot in my early stages and gave me the confidence and the patience to keep investing. Thank you guys so much. Somebody was asking about the shirt. I posted the link in the chat to our merch store. This fresh drop. Literally, this is a sample, but the store is there and you guys can order your merchandise if you so please. Somebody said that they really liked it. So thank you very much. I'm glad that you do. Where is that comment? Can't find it, no. But anyway, moving right along, our next clip is from Mark Golding, because we think it is important to give viewers a balanced view of what is going on in the economy / Jamaican politics, because they go hand in hand. So we invited the opposition leader on and he gave us his policy suggestions. Here's Marky G.
You do differently from the current administration to improve the economy and to improve some of these issues that you mentioned just now? We can't talk about all of them just yet because you mentioned a lot, crime, education, healthcare, but specifically on the economy, what would you and your party do differently?
Well, I think it is important to continue the trajectory of reducing the public debt and achieving debt sustainability. It's written into our law, and it is something which we put a lot of sacrifice as a nation into getting to where we are. You know, when we entered into the IMF program in 2013, our debt to GDP ratio was 147%. And that was way out of whack. That had accumulated rapidly in the previous years and needed to be addressed for the long-term future of the country. As I've said, great strides have been made, bringing that down somewhere in the 80-odd% region now. And that is a very good thing. And we're committing to taking it to 60%, which is the statutory target that's built into the fiscal rules.
Go ahead.
But having said that, there is much more fiscal space now for policy options. So we are very interested in focusing on the problems of the primary school system and that major gap that I identified earlier as to, you know, such a large percentage of our school children not getting the basics by the time they leave primary school. That has to be fixed. And that means more focus on the causes of the poor performance in primary schools, ensuring that teachers are well paid, that the teacher training system is adequate for the needs of the school system, and that the schools themselves are, especially the ones that are underperforming, are given the necessary attention to bring them up to scratch. That's a major plank for us. The training system in the country also, I think, is underperforming. For many years under the current administration, HAT, which is a state trading agency, didn't actually have a functional board. So students who went through HAT programs couldn't have their certificates signed, which meant that it was a very frustrating process for them. We need to look at our training system and I think have much more private sector input into that, because there are a number of companies in Jamaica that run excellent training programs internally. They call themselves, you know, universities often, but they're training for the jobs that they have and that are coming downstream through the investments that they're making. And I think we need to really incentivize those companies that are capable of expanding their training to do so, and work in tandem with heart and the state training apparatus so that we're developing skills in our people that can service high value added investment and build our national productivity, which is the ultimate way that we can create greater wealth and grow our economy. So that's another area of focus for me. In terms of tertiary education,
build the national productivity, absolutely important. But I think, Mr. Golding, probably issue number one on the economic front for Jamaicans right now is inflation, the cost of living. In the past year, things have gotten dramatically more expensive, and we don't know how to, a lot of people just don't know how to cope with the dramatic increase in the cost of living. So how do we address this?
Yeah, well, I had said from 2021, when it was clear that the bottom had fallen out of the economy because of COVID, that the government should do more to cushion the crisis on the people. And I had suggested that the direct expenditure for making life more tolerable, more bearable, more survivable for people who need that kind of help be increased to 2% of GDP, which at that time was roughly $40 billion per year. Keep up the excellent work of educating people about business and finance. I think that, I'm very impressed with what you've been able to deliver in this, developing this portal and this show on your own. I know a little bit about where you're coming from, and, keep up the good work. I think that what you have developed is a unique product, and people, I think, are benefiting from it and enjoying it. So God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for making the time to come.
So that's Mark Golding, PNP leader here on Taking Stock. Oh, when was that? Like a year ago? Gosh, time flies so fast. Was it this year? I don't even remember. Time goes so quickly. It's hard to even keep track. So let me take a few more comments before we move on. Ricardo says, I remember voting for the name Taking Stock. Years later, bigger and better. Congratulations. Wow, Ricardo. Like when I said OG day one, you voted for the name Taking Stock. I don't even remember what the other options were, but it's good to know that you have been with us that long, from even before the show, even when the show was still just an idea. Garvin says, favorite episode was when you were putting pressure on the iCreate founder re their performance at the time while in the iCreate studio. I remember that episode indeed. Thanks, Garvin. Kamoy says that this show has done so much for us, Kalila. You've left an indelible mark on numerous lives. Thank you so much, Kamoy. The comment that I was looking for was from Glamour Wayne, who wanted to know how he could get one of these t-shirts to buy. They're really awesome. I'm glad you like it, Glamour Wayne. I have posted the link to our merch store in the chat, and we're going to put it later on. I think we have to wait until the show is over to edit the description, and then we'll put it in the description as well. You can also send it out by email. Sachel, I know you're on that. Let's get it out. Even though we haven't officially launched yet, but since you guys are asking, hey, why not put it out there? Sean says, breaking the circuit breaker twice in a day is wild. That was QWI, wasn't it? I don't even remember now. David says, can't remember, but I full joy. All of them. Glamour again says, to be honest, every episode is my favorite. So since we gave you the opposition leader, I have to say the interview with the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, was definitely one of our most highly anticipated episodes. It remains, I think it's our top viewed episode. Was it this or Michael Lee Chin was our top viewed episode? But I know the Prime Minister's episode had over 18,000 views. It was definitely one of our top viewed episodes. And you guys had been waiting for it for a long time. We had been asking for it for quite some time as well. And he came through. And here's some highlights from that interview.
So when we look at this entire situation that the country is facing, the cost of living, price of goods, rent is going up, school fees gone up like crazy, especially in the prep schools because of the increases in the public sector school, the teachers increase and so on. How do we cope
what do we do, the ones on the ground who still have to find the money for the school fee, who still have to find the money to feed our children, who still have to find the money to try buy a house if you can, or afford rent, which is just through the roof right now?
I want to give, Kalila, I'm so grateful for this program. And I want to use it to give hope to the Jamaican people. I think I've been around long enough to see several back-to-school periods. And it is during back-to-school that the hardship really comes out, because parents have to make household allocations in favor of education, and other areas will suffer. Poor households sometimes aren't able to make these kinds of allocations. But whilst the struggle continues, whilst definitely there are Jamaican households struggling to send their children back to school, I took the time yesterday and today to just analyze the back to school period. And it is clear that it went off seamlessly in most instances. This is not just because the Ministry of Education put things in place and the systems are in place. It is because the economy is recovering. It is because more persons are employed. And even if the income is a little bit lower, and though we have increased the minimum wage, and there is still the impact of inflation, the truth is that more Jamaicans have jobs, and therefore more households have income. The allocative decisions are still difficult. You have to make a choice between sometimes buying a full basket of food or buying books. And I'm hoping that the Jamaican people are making the right choices with their limited incomes to invest in
the right
things
choice?
like education.
What is
housing.
the right choice in that situation? Books or food? Those seem like
not,
two
it's not,
non-negotiables.
Well, I'm not prescribing, and I'm very careful to do that in our democracy, but I can give guidance. I think that if you want to see a permanent change in your circumstances, you ask, what should we be doing? In our perpetual struggle as a people, from the plantation to where we are now, we have to recognize that the struggle is not going to change by us giving up hope or throwing up our hands or making perverse choices. Our conditions and circumstances will change if we acknowledge that, yes, things are difficult. As Bob Marley said, rain or fall, but the dirty tough. If we change our perspective and say the dirty tough, but rain is falling. Things are difficult, but more people are getting employed. Yes, we had a terrible bout of inflation, but it wasn't Jamaica alone. And the government has increased the minimum wage. The government has put $112 billion more into public sector compensation. The government has put in place what we call a social pension. So for those persons who weren't contributing to NIS and who didn't have a pension from previous employment, if they're 75 years and older, they can register for some support. The government has increased the support for the PATH program. So we're cognizant that things are difficult. We will never, ever deny that. The struggle is real. The challenges are real. I see it every day, but things are improving. And so now is not the time for us to take a pessimistic or fatalistic view of the future.
Mm. Well, let's talk about taxes, PM, because that's one thing that is in your control as we talk about inflation and how people deal with it. Is it feasible to lower taxes at this time to make things a little bit more affordable for ordinary people?
Kalila, as you know, as someone who is in the financial system, taxes are distortionary to how a free market would work. But they're an effective tool for gathering revenues, but they're also an effective tool for promoting or dissuading industries or consumption patterns. What we do not want to do with taxes is to play around with them too much. The policy of this government is to keep taxation stable. once you price in what the tax is, regardless of what your income level is, but once you can price it in and you know that this tax is not going to increase on you, you're in a far better position. So a stable tax system is one that Jamaica has benefited from since this government has been in this running the administration. And I think people take it for granted that the taxes have been stable. But if they were to reflect on the 10 years before, when taxes were unstable and how difficult that period was, then I think a greater appreciation would be had for what this government has done in keeping taxes.
So that interview with Prime Minister Andrew Holness was indeed one of our highest viewed episodes. Raquel, I love how Raquel is taking ownership of this. Raquel said we had over 400 live. I love you how you even remember it. And I love that you said we had over 400 live. You know, Raquel is always the one in the comments telling people to like up the videos. Another OG, big up yourself, Raquel. If my memory serves me correctly, we had over 700 live when the Prime Minister was on. So it was a very, very highly anticipated episode, especially because at the time, and still, inflation has been just eating us alive, which was issue number one in the Jamaican economy. We are still dealing with the ravages of inflation to this day. And I think it is one of the reasons that the JLP administration is lagging in the polls. So whenever that election is called, Andrew himself has admitted they're in trouble. And we will see how that plays out when the election is indeed called. It is constitutionally due in 2025. Now, moving on to our final clip of the night. This one was by far our most popular episode. It's also the longest interview with a guest. So Michael Leachin was on for 55 minutes. Normally, we try to keep our guest interviews to about 20-25 minutes, but the interview with MLC was just so good that it kept on going. And we had so many gems being dropped in that interview. You guys asked him to do a mentorship program, which led to money mentorship. What was it? Ask Mike. That led to the Ask Mike series, which led to a bunch of other things, him sharing his principles with us, the draft of his book, and so many other things. So here's a clip from that interview with Michael Leachin.
78.
That's what we all want to know. What is the formula? Tell us.
Okay, so what I wanted to do was what I figured out was the common threads between every single wealthy person. People who created wealth, not inherited it, not who were not born into it, not who didn't marry into it, but created it. And I figured that, so I went, as an engineer, there's a process you go through when you're looking at solving any problem. Number one, you observe. Number two, from your observations, you create a hypothesis. Then you stress test your hypothesis. Thirdly, if it holds true, you codify it. And then lastly, you hardwire it. So I observe wealthy people. And I noticed that they all did, I remember people who created the wealth. They all did 5 things. The first thing they did, and by the way, Khalila, let me walk you through it. You think of any wealthy person who created it, anywhere in the world, okay? Don't tell me who. And I'm going to tell you the 5 things that that person you're thinking of did to have created wealth. Number one, that person, Khalila, created wealth by owning a few, not too many, high-quality businesses. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Number two, that person really understands those few businesses. Am I right?
Yes.
Number three, those businesses are domiciled, located in an industry that has strong long-term growth characteristics.
Absolutely.
Number four, that person used other people's money to have created the wealth.
Yes, very true.
And lastly, Khalila, that person's attitude towards ownership is, I'll hold these businesses, these few businesses, for as long as they remain high quality and the industries within which they're domiciled remains in a strong long-term growth trend. So those are the 5 things that everybody who created wealth did. So all I now need to do, so that's a framework. And all I now need to do was execute on the framework and stick to it, which is what I did.
So what was your first business?
My first business was, well, firstly, another essential necessity to create wealth is what I now codify as the 3 Ps. The first P is you have to be able to predict where a sector is going, where an industry is going, right? Where a country is going. You have to be able to predict. That's the first P. Then you have to plan for your prediction. And then thirdly, you have to persevere with your plan. So if you do the 3 Ps, you will prosper. Okay?
Oh.
So predict, plan, and persevere. So what did I predict?
Persevere, prosper.
Yes, exactly. What did I predict? I predicted back in 1983 that the money management business, the asset management business, would be in a strong long-term growth mode. So how did I conclude that? With a high degree of confidence, whereby I would go out and borrow a lot of money to put into one stock. I'll explain to you how I predicted. Well, I'm a member of the baby boomer community cohort. So that's bookended by people who were born between 1946 and 1964. And I'm smack bang in the middle. And the baby boomer cohort is the largest cohort in the was the largest cohort in the North American population back in the late 70s, early 80s, about 30% of the North American population. So whatever that cohort does, because they are such a large percentage of the population, whatever they are doing en masse as a group, there goes the economy. So in 1983, I was 32. So I thought, so what do 32-year-old families, what are they doing today? Well, they're buying a home, they're buying a car, refrigerator, they're consuming. So therefore, 30% of the North American population is engaged in consumption. So we're in a consumption boom right now. But you don't make money, you don't create any wealth by doing what people are doing today. You create wealth by doing today what they'll be doing tomorrow. So I thought, okay, I'm 32. We're all consuming. What will 10 years from now, what will 42-year-old Mike be doing? Or the likes of 42-year-old Mike in the median age in the baby boomer cohort, 10 years from now, we're 42. Well, at 42, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I've been consuming for the last couple of decades. Retirement is coming up in 23 years, 65. I don't have enough money saved. So all of a sudden, the largest percentage of the North American population will wake up and say, oh my gosh, I don't have enough money saved. I need to save and invest. So there's coming a saving and investing boom. Predict based on demographics. So how do I participate in that? Well, I can buy shares in a bank. When you buy shares in a bank, you can get loan losses. So that's not the bullseye. I could buy shares in an insurance company. When you buy shares in an insurance company, you can suffer from underwriting losses. So that too is not the bullseye. Or I can buy shares in an asset management business. Bullseye. So I went out as a young man, 32, and borrowed $500,000 Canadian dollars, $500,000. It was more than my net worth then, to put into one stock. A stock called Mackenzie Financial Corporation, which is a money management company, because it met the 5 criteria. Right? Number 1, it was a high quality business. Number 2,
you were working there at the time, no?
No. I used to sell their products. And
that's what it was.
I would sell their products.
So you were very familiar with their products.
I was very familiar with their products. I was very familiar with the industry. I knew the margins the margins pertaining to each product. I understood the regulatory environment. I understood where the industry was going, etc. So I went out and borrowed $500,000 to put into one stock, Mackenzie. I bought at $1 per share in October of 1993. And also, I went and bought Berkshire Hathaway shares, Mr. Warren Buffett shares, back in 1983.
Wow.
Right?
Talk about a
So the
win.
McKinsey shares went from $1 in 1983, October, to $7 by 1987 in 4 years. So 500,000 became 3.5 million. That gave me my
Wow.
start.
Michael Lee Chin dropping gems. For those of you who never saw that one, go back and watch it. I think the important thing that he mentioned there was predicting. Because yes, the money isn't made based on what people are doing now. And I think you guys may have learned that from Julian Morrison, one of our regular analysts. The money is made by predicting what people are going to be doing tomorrow, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and putting your money in those companies of the future, those companies that are creating the things now that we are going to be using in the next few years. So very, very important lessons there coming from Michael Lee Chin. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll have our OG analyst, David Rose, standing by. But first, let me ask you to take our poll question for this week. So a lot has happened since Dr. Nigel Clarke announced that he has been appointed Deputy Managing Director to the IMF. Today was his last day in office as Jamaica's finance minister. We are still waiting to hear who the next finance minister will be. That announcement should come any day now. I feel like it should have already come. I don't feel like he should have left office without us knowing who the successor will be. But it hasn't been announced yet. So now let me see if your opinions have changed. Today is Nigel Clarke's last day as finance minister, or was his last day. Who do you think should take his role? Here are your options. A, Aubyn Hill. B, Fayval Williams. C, Chris Tufton. D, Andrew Holness. Or other. Leave a comment. Can bring in somebody new. Let me know. Have your opinions changed? And the first time we ran this poll, we didn't have Andrew Holness as an option. So should the PM take on finance as well? Andrew Holness is option. So let's go back over the options. A, Aubyn Hill. B, Fayval Williams. C, Chris Tufton. D, Andrew Holness, or other. And you can leave a comment letting us know who you think should be the next Minister of Finance. Leave your answers in the chat, or you can take the poll in the community section of our YouTube channel or over on X. Up next, we've got your market recap, and our analyst is standing by.
The JSE combined index lost over 3,000 points last week, or 1%. 120 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the week ending Friday, October 25, 2024. 49 made gains, 58 lost value, and 13 stayed the same. 55 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at $336 million. QWI Investments was the week's most traded stock, with 6 million shares changing hands. It started the week at 81 cents. Wigton traded the second highest volume. The stock's price was unchanged to open Monday at $1.02. And Palace rounded out last week's most traded. It started the week at $1.01. Key Insurance was the week's top gainer, up 15%. Epley had the second biggest gain, up 14%. And Berger Paints rounded out the top stocks, also up 14%. On the losing side now, Medical Disposables and Supplies was the week's biggest loser. The stock was down 20% to open Monday at $1.84, while MFS Capital Partners lost almost 13%, and Mayberry Jamaican Equities lost nearly 12%. Over on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index was mostly flat last week. Massey was the TTSE's most traded stock. It gained 6 cents to open Monday at $3.56 TT. National Flour Mills was TNT's top gainer, up nearly 9% to start the week at $1.80 TT. And on the losing side, West Indian Tobacco fell almost 8% to open Monday at $6 TT. Over in the U.S., the Dow Jones lost 2.5% last week, while the S&P 500 lost about 1%, and the Nasdaq was mostly flat. At the pumps, gas prices dipped $3.06 in Jamaica last week. It was the same for diesel prices, which were also down $3.06. In foreign exchange, it took an average $159.01 Jamaican to purchase $1 last Friday. That's 8 cents more than the week before. Meanwhile, it took an average $115.18 Jamaican to purchase $1 Canadian. One British pound cost on average $205.70 Jamaican, and you could buy €1 for $174.49 Jamaican on average. Finally, on the crypto markets, Bitcoin prices were up 3% last week, trading at $68,879 US on Monday, while Ethereum prices were stable, trading at $2,526 US on Monday. Debt do-over is for anyone struggling with debt, especially high-interest debt like credit cards and payday loans. In this course, I'll show you how to make a plan to pay off those debts in as little as 12 months or less. Use my debt repayment calculator to predict your upcoming interest and take control of your payments. Then we'll move on to using debt the right way, learning your credit score, how to negotiate better terms on your loan, and how to maximize the benefits of your credit card without going into more debt.
And I was able to get out of debt by March the following year. So I took approximately 5 months. And this was something I was struggling with for maybe about a year. And with Khalila's help, through the Money Mission, I was able to get through that.
The video that made the most impact for me was the one speaking about the credit card. Really good advice. I was able to manage the money properly. I was able to not overspend.
So, are you ready to accept the mission? Click the button below to get started.
Disclaimer. This is not intended as financial advice. Please consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analyst, is brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Welcome back. So, FYI, if you attended the webinar on Monday, The Real Cost of Debt, last night, wow, today's Tuesday, yeah, then you would know that we have a sale going on Money Mission Premium. It is the lowest price I will ever offer on Premium. It is discounted by 25%, and that is running until tomorrow. So you have until 8 p.m. tomorrow to take advantage of the sale. I think the link is in the description, but if not, then I will post it for you guys. But yeah, Money Mission Premium is currently on sale for $250 for the year. That's US dollars, of course. The lowest price. And so after Wednesday, it goes back to its regular price of $299. And in January, I'm actually going to be raising that price. So yeah, you are getting a significant deal of one more day to go, 24 hours more to go for Money Mission Premium. Let me post the link in the chat right now. Premium sale, 25% off Money Mission Premium. I'll post it in the chat for you. Paste. Yeah. So you will not find this link on the website. This link was exclusive to people who attended the webinar, but since you guys are my OG and I'm feeling good because it is our 5th birthday, I'm also posting the link here for you to be able to take advantage of that sale. Or if you just feel generous and you want to give us a birthday gift, then head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Khalila Ray, and you can leave us a little birthday donation, a little birthday present to continue supporting our existence for another 5 years and 10 years and 50 years and beyond. At this point, let me introduce our analyst for the evening. His name is David Rose, no stranger to taking stock, one of our OG and not just one of, our OG analyst, been with us from day one on those very early episodes. Welcome back, David.
Khalila. It's good
What
to
did
be
you
here for
do?
the 5th anniversary.
Yes, yes. Looking back at those early episodes, you looked a lot younger. So did I.
know.
5 years, man.
Well, COVID
Wow.
age us.
We've
COVID
come a
aged
long
us.
way. So we're going to talk about Dr. Nigel Clarke leaving for the IMF. Today was his last day. What's next for his ministry and for Jamaica, in your opinion?
So with Dr. Clarke, with Dr. Clarke's role officially ending today as the Minister of Finance, what we're likely going to see is an official announcement tomorrow from Jamaica House, or I should say the Office of the Prime Minister, as to who will take on the role. Now, the Minister of Finance role is a special role as guided by our Constitution, such that the Minister of Finance has to be an MP, similar to a Prime Minister. So, effectively, it could be the Prime Minister, or it could be another member of the JLP cabinet who is a minister. But we're definitely going to get some announcement within the next 2 days, probably by tomorrow morning. But in terms of the direction for the finance ministry, it's really going to come down to the strategy of the new finance minister or state minister that runs that operation. But I don't really see a deviation from Dr. Clarke's plans or what he had built up over time, because Dr. Clarke would have instilled a decent level of trust from the Jamaican public. He would have led several critical transactions and different activities that have been to the benefit of Jamaicans. So you've gone several years, hearing no new taxes. They are still able to increase the inflows into the government coffers, but not to the detriment of the ordinary citizen in a sense. We have the reverse tax credit, we had the securitization of receivables, the TGH transaction, helped out Jamaica big time when we had COVID. So likely we're going to see a continuation of, just sensible and responsible policy, but you should just see who's going to be the captain, directing that ship.
Interesting. Looking at the comments in the chat right now, I see Raquel saying other. She says no to Andrew Holness. Jamar says Fayval Williams should be the next finance minister. Who do you think it should be?
Kalila, as a man who doesn't get himself involved in politics, I leave my comment out of the situation. And on Instagram, I said Dr. Clarke is our best finance minister in modern Jamaica. I am not going to get political, but it's the truth. Dr. Clarke has made finance actually appealing to the average man, and it's going to be hard for someone to really surpass his legacy. But I'm looking forward to see who comes in the role and what they do, because a strong finance minister is crucial to stability and confidence in the country's operations and just in general.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Fayval has my vote. I can say that publicly. I did release a video several weeks ago, outlining the pros and cons of the various choices, but I never did say who I thought it should be. And let me just say that publicly. I think it should be Fayval Williams. She has the experience. She's not as exciting as Dr. Clarke, but when you remember when Nigel Clarke first started, he wasn't all that exciting either. He had to grow into the role and develop some theatrics, and I think Fayval can do that as well. Although it is not absolutely necessary for the position, it is fun to have when you're covering a 3-4 hour budget debate, to have those theatrics in Parliament. I want to move on to another topic, because Portland JSX, which is a company that we don't talk about much on this show. I'm not sure if we've ever spoken about this company on this show. They are set to reap more gains from Portland Caribbean Fund. So before you tell us about that, tell us what these companies actually do. Because like I said, we've never spoken about them before.
Well, the way I think of Portland JSX is a part of the textbook that you just said you should study, but you probably never actually use it in real life. So in most cases, we always hear about LLCs, limited liability companies, where the most you can lose is what you invest, and the liability is only limited to the company itself. Portland JSX, is a limited partner with respect to the Portland Caribbean Fund 2. So the Portland Caribbean Fund 2, would be the fund that each party, I should say, invest through to derive gains. So to wind back a little bit, you have two sets of partners in a sense. The general partner has unlimited liability and runs the day-to-day operations of the business. Your limited partner, which is Portland JSX, their liability is only limited to what they invest. They're basically silent. They just observe, and these structures, do give the ability for different entities to co-invest alongside these different strategies and benefit, without having to take on greater risk than they potentially would desire. So to break it down, Portland Private Equity is the general one of the Portland entities is the general partner. Portland JSX, I believe IFC, International Financial Corporation, and several other entities are limited partners. So they invest capital into Portland Caribbean Fund 2. Portland Caribbean Fund 2 buys stakes or does different structured deals with their target companies. So for example, the third or fourth largest shareholder in Productive Business Solutions is the Portland Caribbean Fund 2, basically, which is done through Portland JSX has an indirect stake in, basically, through their investments as a limited partner. With respect to, I'm trying to think of other companies on the portfolio right now. So ITL BPO, the tropical, I should say the Diverse Assets Inc. company, which owns Tropical Battery, Diverse Assets Jamaica, Choka. Those are companies that also are under the Portland Caribbean Fund 2 portfolio, and so on and so forth. So what has been happening in the last year is that it's at the end of what you'd call the private equity life cycle, committed life cycle period, whereby the Portland Caribbean Fund is now selling some of these investments, as you would say, to realize the gains, and some of these gains are now flowing back to limited partners as part of their distribution agreement. And as a result, you're seeing Portland JSX have a reduction in its investments on its balance sheet, but the cash itself is actually going up. So basically, Portland JSX is now trying to realize more of these investments. So they mentioned Grupo IGA in Colombia. Not them, but Portland Caribbean Fund 2 is selling its stake in Clarion Group. Remember that NCB Financial Group is actually selling a 30% stake in Clarion to Cornerstone Financial Holdings. They're looking to also realize gains on Productive Business Solutions, PBS. And they're just looking to extract more and more value from the other portfolio assets that are there. Now, what's going to happen next? The intention is for those proceeds that have increased in value over the timeline or invested period to be reinvested into Portland Caribbean Fund 3, which is going to seek new investments. So it's mainly focused on the private equity space. And to just keep it simple, anything of private equity, it's usually taking a company that's not public and eventually selling it to a third party, selling it to the market through an IPO, or selling it back to the company itself in a particular structure to realize a particular gain. So I think Proven is a relative example, not the best example, but they would have spent, I can't remember the exact figure, but they bought Access for $9 back in 2014 December. They sold about half of their stake in September 2019 for $32. So they still retained 20% of the company, but they'd have already realized the gains and they're able to redeploy those funds into other investments. That's really private equity. Venture capital, is basically dedicated towards startups or companies with potentially fast, high growth rates. While private equities, we focus more on companies that are established, already growing, has structure. So Portland JSX realizes investments is good because there's possibility for them to distribute even a minor dividend depending on the size of these exits, to benefit the shareholders, which are mainly pension
I was
funds.
just about to ask, is Portland JSX a good dividend paying company?
They never paid dividend before, Kalila. So effectively, to keep it simple, Portland JSX invests the capital to Portland Caribbean Fund and then does some direct investments. Those investments go through what I call a gestation period, basically where they're supposed to gain value as the company grows. And at the end of the period, they try to exit those investments and then either reinvest that capital back into another private equity deal or pay some of it as dividends to shareholders. So I just remember that better private equity example. So first, private equity would have bought $75% of dollar for $1.1 million US. They sold $187 million worth of shares, or about 10%. In the IPO, they would have sold more than $1 billion worth of dollar to Mayberry and SPL, and they still retain a 20% stake that gives them dividends, but they have already realized a significant gain on their investment within a relatively short time span.
So I just brought up the trading history. It's traded pretty flat. This is the past 3 months. Let's look at 6 months.
It's a pension fund stock, Kalila. It's not going to trade as much as a regular operating business.
Year to date. Well, I'm just trying to figure, what is the advantage of investing in this company if they don't pay regular dividends and there's not much change in the stock price over time?
So remember that I mentioned earlier, this company is mainly for pension funds because pension funds have particular restrictions on how and what they can invest their money into. So Portland JSX was basically an avenue for pension funds to get exposure to private equity as a workaround to that restriction of them buying directly into these, what you'd call, more so riskier ventures, because the possibility is always there for a company to lose money. So Portland JSX is the speaker of pension funds to get that exposure. And if all does play out and they start paying dividends, pre-taxing dividends as well, then the pension funds are vindicated for their choices of investing into Portland JSX.
All right, so it's a play for the big guys, basically.
Yep.
I see a comment here. Roswell says, company like that who keep the profits to themselves is not so attractive to me. I mean, I get it. Same thing I was looking at. All right, well, thank you so much, David. Before you go, let me ask you, what is your favorite taking stock memory? Because you have been here, like I said, from day one, from our very first episode.
As I said, Kalila, so 2 particular moments. So you mentioned one of them, which was with Dr. Clarke, and I saw you on Friday with a belly, and on Sunday on Instagram, I see you with Ryan already out of the womb. And then, a couple weeks before that, we would have taken stock going through IPOs, going back through, for example, the first week IPO, and, the way admin has changed over time, and, just back then thinking of how you were doing those preloaded shoots, how we were always just second between guests and, just going through that initial grinding stage, because 5 years later, we're doing it virtually, whereas back when we started, we're doing pre-recorded shows and we're just, stopping, making corrections, bringing back in. So I really think back to those moments because it's really funny to think that 5 years ago, I was, not as knowledgeable as I am now, but I still had a way to express myself and try and create some level of understanding to the general audience. And, it's good to try and explain things that happen in the stock market or in general, because you don't know the impact that you will have on someone's life by providing valuable information that some might see as insignificant.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being with us on this journey, David. We appreciate your consistency and your knowledge, your presence week after week. You always deliver. I can always count on you.
You're welcome, Kalila. Take it easy.
Let's take our final break and come back with your comments and some announcements.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analyst, was brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Like the show? No, I mean, do you really like this show? Well, support us by making a donation on Patreon. Your support will go a long way in allowing us to continue creating content like this and keep taking stock free for everyone. Go to patreon.com/Kalila Ray to sign up. The link is in the description. So, yes, if you want to give us a little birthday present, I would not be mad at that. You can support us at patreon.com/Kalila Ray. That's KALILAHREY. Keep the show on. Let's keep going for years to come because I know that you guys value this information. And I've already explained to you the transition that we're going through. We already had to cancel the bottom line. I do not want taking stock to be next, but you got to do what you got to do. So help us out, support the show, go to patreon.com/Kalila Ray. Now, another announcement is our sale that is currently going on Money Mission Premium. Now, the objective of Money Mission Premium is to get you to change your financial future in 12 months. So in Money Mission Premium, there's a series of courses that you are going to go through, starting with Build Your Budget, which I feel like it could be a misnomer because Build Your Budget is really more than about budgeting. It's really about creating a financial plan. So by the time you complete that course in about 6 weeks, you will have established a financial plan for the next 12 months. You're going to plan out your money for the next 12 months. The second course that you then graduate into is Debt Do-Over, which is the one that we relaunched last night at the webinar. And at the end of Debt Do-Over, you would have made considerable progress towards reducing your debt. You would have reduced your debt by as much as 50% using the strategies recommended in Debt Do-Over. Now, these two courses lay the foundation for your wealth building courses that come next. So the next one to be relaunched is going to be Investing for Beginners, followed by Real Estate for Beginners, followed by Small Business Systems, followed by Money Marketing. Small Business Systems is an entirely new course. Real Estate for Beginners will be an entirely new course. Money Marketing will have a new module. Investing for Beginners will have several new modules. And all of this is very interactive. It is on the Money Mission platform. We have activities for you. We have quizzes as part of the course. We have printables, so you can download the worksheets, complete them, measure your progress. And of course, you have the community support, so you can share with the community what your progress has been like. You can ask questions, and you can join me the first Monday of every month for Money Mentorship, which has been very interesting. I really enjoy doing Money Mentorship. Next week, Monday, is going to be the next edition of Money Mentorship. That's November 4. And I'm going to take a slightly different approach, but that's going to be reserved for the people who actually attend Money Mentorship. So at the end of the 12 months, you should experience a complete financial transformation because you would have your money plan in place. You would have reduced your debt. You would have started investing and have passive income coming in from dividends. You would be on your way to owning real estate if you don't already. You would have made substantial progress towards starting a business. And if you already have a business, your business will be more efficient and more profitable. And you will learn how to market that business as well. So all of this is going to be happening in 12 months of intensive work inside Money Mission. And your investment is only $250 until tomorrow. Because after tomorrow, the price goes back up to $299. And in January, the price will go up again. So I haven't decided yet. Maybe $349, I'm not sure. I do know that it is worth a whole lot more than that. But for now, we'll leave it at $250 until tomorrow. That's your discount. And then after tomorrow, it goes back to the regular price. The link is there in the description. I also put it in the chat for you if you want to take advantage of this one-time sale, because I don't know if I'll ever go this low again. But I'm feeling generous because it is our birthday, y'all. And I appreciate all the birthday love that we've been experiencing. So let me take a few more comments before we wrap up the show. Antoinette says, Beryllium Boss interview, Andre McLean. That was a good one. Thanks for reminding me of that one, Antoinette. That really was one of my favorite interviews as well. In terms of who should be the next finance minister, One Cocoa Investor says Don Webby would be good as well. I saw somebody else, Garvin, pointing out that Don Webby isn't an MP, so he would have to first be elected in a by-election and then take up that role. Janet says, happy birthday, taking stock. Antoinette said the real estate feature. Which real estate feature? Oh, you mean the Remax series? That wasn't taking stock, but the real estate series did very well as well. I remember we did one in taking stock early days about Airbnbs. That was a really good episode. Courtney, no, it's not Courtney. I can't remember the name of the guest. Little John, it was his last name, Little John. And we had somebody else on. We did an episode about cryptocurrency. We did a lot of fun stuff in the early days of taking stock. Janet says, thank you for having my son on your show, Kalila. Thank you for blessing us with your son, Janet. It's David Mummy. Thank you so much for allowing him to be part of the show and for creating such a wonderful and brilliant individual. Raquel says, true, David. Mike said, big up, David. Garvin says, yes, for sure. Maximum respect for David Rose, humble and knowledgeable. Christopher is reminding everybody to like the video. Let me remind you to do so as well. Just give us a little thumbs up on whatever platform that you are watching. Who else we have? Sean wants to know if Money Mission teaches you how to invest in the U.S. stock market from Jamaica. Yes, we do have a module in Investing for Beginners that does show you exactly how to do that. And when we relaunch, we're going to go even in further detail. So take advantage, Sean, because it's not going to last this price. Let me see what else. Peter wanted to know, only MPs who have a PhD can become Minister of Finance? No, Peter, you do not need a PhD to become Minister of Finance. Dr. Clarke might be our first who has a PhD. Before Clarke, it was, no, we had Dr. Peter Phillips. So Dr. Peter Phillips. Before Dr. Phillips, it was Audley Shaw, who's not a PhD. Before Audley Shaw, we had, must have been Omar Davies, Dr. Omar Davies, so another PhD. But absolutely not. You do not need to have a PhD to be the Minister of Finance. Lanesra says, like the episode, you liked the episode about affordable houses. That was the episode with David Mullings recently. That was another very good one as well. So thank you guys for joining us for yet another week. I appreciate your presence. I will appreciate it even more if you donate some money via Patreon, patreon.com/Kalila Ray. Show us some birthday love. Thank you to our hardworking production crew, led tonight by Fayval Williams, our editor, Jaylon Foster, Izzy Ramsey on supporting duties tonight as well, and to the entire team. I appreciate you guys. We will see you again next week. And for all my New Jersey people, link up. I'm going to be in New Jersey this weekend, heading there on Thursday until Sunday. So let me know if you want to do a little New Jersey meetup. I was in Atlanta last week. We never did have time to organize a meetup for Atlanta, but we may be able to do so in New Jersey. So Jersey peeps, link up. Let me know. Message me on Instagram or send me an email if you want to do a little New Jersey link up. Until next week, guys, I'm Kalila Reynolds. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.